Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you another coding project I created, and this is probably my favorite one I've made so far, just because it's really clean. I made it look nice, I spent a lot of time in it, and it took a lot of effort, and I'd say the majority of the effort wasn't even coding, it was just getting the information in there. But so let's jump right into it. It's called a scripture generator. It basically just gives us a random scripture from either the Old Testament, New Testament, Book of Mormon, Doctrine and Covenants. Um, and so you can see it's given us official declaration under the Doctrine and Covenants, and it actually creates this link to the churchofjesuschrist.org website, which will take you directly to where that is. And it also gives us the reference to which standard work it's in, so we can just go to that and get the whole list of what's in there. So that's one example. So let's create another one. This time we got Jonah 1:16 from the Old Testament, and you can go right there and it'll actually jump you down to where it can be. So it gives you this little bookmark on a page. So this one's a poor example because it's near the bottom, so we can't actually scroll any further. So let's try and get another one where I can kind of demonstrate that. So this one we're on verse 11. So you can see verse 11 goes straight to the top. And it will do that as long as the verse can be scrolled straight to the top. So some of these ones on the bottom won't be able to make it. But yeah, that's kind of the idea of how it works. So there's quite a bit of numbers in the code, just so you're aware. So let's jump over there and check it out. Alrighty, so here we are, and this one, as you can see, has quite a bit of stuff, a lot of numbers, and we'll get into why that is right here. But so basically what we've got is we've got all this stuff giving us the details. I wanted to make it look really nice. There's quite a bit of CSS involved. HTML is still super basic. We've just got the button at the top, then we've got output 1 and output 2, which are basically what verse you got and then where it's located. So then here we have the number of verses. So we have each book in the standard work. So like for example, Gen is short for Genesis, and chapter 1 of Genesis has 31 verses, chapter 2 has 25, chapter 3 has 24, and so we list all those out so that it knows how many verses it has to choose from. Because let's say that when we clicked randomly generate, it gave us Genesis as our book. And then when it's looking through the chapters, it says, okay, let's do chapter 3. And then it needs to know how many verses it has. So we had to give it as much information as it needs, but with typing in as few numbers as we wanted. So I didn't actually have to type in every single verse, I just had to say how many verses there were, which did still take a ton of time, but it took a lot less time than it would have. So you can see we have all of the Old Testament verses here. We've got the New Testament verses listed out here. We've got the Book of Mormon chapters here. And then here's the Doctrine and Covenants chapters. We've also got the Pearl of Great Price, but it's listed separately. And so then what we had is we are making a list of, or this list of the actual Old Testament. So it has Genesis as the first book, Exodus as the second one, etc. And the reason I made these after this is because I originally had it in reverse order. I said, okay, we've got all the works in this one list here, and then we separate them into their individual books, and then here's all their verses, because we broke it down from top to bottom. But the reason that doesn't work, and this actually took me quite a while to figure out, the reason that doesn't work is because if this line right here was created first, it's going through it line by line by line. And if this is created first, it's going, well, here's a variable called OT, but that doesn't exist. So we're going to generate an error. So that's why we do it in reverse order, which means this has already been defined. So we're allowed to include it down here because it already exists. But that one in here has this variable. So that's why we had to do that way up here, because otherwise it wouldn't exist. So we do it in reverse order like that, so that we have all the verses in their books, and then all the books are collected up in this standard work, and all the works are in this single variable called works. So then, every time you click the button, it runs this function called choose. And so that just kind of erases everything from before in case you are clicking the button multiple times. And then we declare these variables, and we say, okay, let's get a work. So out of the works, we generate 1 through 5, and then say, okay, well, our work is whatever that is. So like if the standard work is Old Testament, we get work equals OT. So we get a random work and call it work. And we want a display name for that when we display it to the page. So we're going to call it works display. And then the book, we just say, okay, well, the book we just need to figure out how many books are in the work. So if the work is OT, we say, well, we have this many books in it, and it picks a random one out of that. Chapter is the same thing, just with chapter out of the book. And then the verses is a little bit different because all it is it says, okay, well, that book has this many this many verses. So just pick a random number between 0 and that big number. So like if it was 1 Timothy chapter 2, it would say, okay, well, our number here is 15, so our verse can be anywhere from 1 to 15. And that's why we did it that way. And now this, for the church's website, they have their abbreviations a little bit different than I did in my code. So rather than adjust all my code up there, I decided to just make some if statements for the links. So for example, I did BOM for Book of Mormon, they did B of M, and then I called it D and C, they called it DC-Testament. So there's a couple of changes. I couldn't do numbers first for variables, whereas they had like 2-core for 2 Corinthians. I did core 2. So you can see I just have all the adjustments here as needed. And then I can't remember how to pronounce them, but the facsimiles in the Pearl of Great Price, the Abraham ones, those are a little bit different. So finally, we just create this output where we include this link. And I had to check out how the links in the website worked, but once I had figured it out, I was able to get the formatting correctly. And then we have this second link for where it's located. And then here is some debug information in case I ever need it, but it seems to be working pretty great. So I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and if you want more coding projects like this, be sure to check out my channel. See ya!